Hello, friends, and welcome to the Living Truth Podcast. I'm Kristin Carey, hosting today and here in the studio with my husband, Michael Carey.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to interview me on our podcast today. I'm excited about all that we're going to talk about here.
You guys, Michael and I co-founded Living Truth together and have co-founded the podcast and hosted the podcast together and separately. Michael founded and runs Men in the Battle for men wanting freedom from unwanted sexual behavior, and I founded Women in the Battle for women seeking hope and healing after betrayal. Today, what we're going to talk about is the importance of having a battle plan, and this is something for any person who struggles with unwanted sexual behavior. In order to find, achieve, establish, maintain, sustain freedom from unwanted sexual behavior, that person must have some kind of a battle plan in place. And Michael's going to share some specific elements of the Men in the battle plan, which can be a helpful tool for anyone because there are some guiding principles of elements that are essential to human flourishing, let alone finding and establishing freedom that Michael's going to talk about today. So when you look at what a man needs to sustain freedom, who are the key players that a man needs to have in his life that he will implement in his battle plan?
Yeah, that is a great place to start. And putting together a team, and the team can change, of course, over the years. I've been in recovery working on myself for 16 years now, here 2025. It is the same principles that we apply, and long-term growth, really not just about achieving freedom, but really just growing, consistently growing, becoming more like Christ, having a plan of action, working a plan, knowing what you're doing, knowing that you're making progress, that your plan is working and that it's helping. I mean, it's all really part of a foundational understanding. What do I do? What do I have to do? So having a plan, the saying is, if you fail the plan, you plan to fail, right? And all of the years before 2009, when I was trying on my own, and I know so many of our listeners may still be in that predicament where they're trying to figure this out by themselves. They're trying to stop the unwanted sexual behavior on their own. It just doesn't work. So at the very, very least, we need a foundational plan, and the people, the relationships that we're going to surround ourselves with, it is vital. Okay, so we created this in Men in the Battle, but this is applicable no matter where you're at, in your journey. First starting out, 16 years in. So some of the main key people that a man really needs is a professional, someone who has the education, the experience, the expertise in this specific area of helping someone deal with unwanted sexual behavior. Having that professional at least a few meetings, if not ongoing. Of course, I recommend ongoing.
And you're talking, it could be a therapist, it could be a coach.
Exactly.
At some point, if you have a ton of trauma, childhood trauma, a therapist is going to be an essential part of the journey.
Right, exactly. So having a professional, and when I think about this, there are many different approaches. One-on-one is what I'm really talking about, one-on-one with a coach, one-on-one with a counselor. In Men in the Battle, with our solo track curriculum, we're getting insight and wisdom from a coach through video teaching. So it's another aspect. But for sure, the one-on-one specific to your struggle, to your challenge, to your life, paying a coach or a counselor for help. But with the childhood trauma, absolutely. Everyone needs to see a professional, at least for a little while, and at least in the beginning. So that's vital. But there's many different ways in which you could go about that. And then having a mentor, someone who can walk alongside you, who knows your story personally, And this is, a mentor. I'm talking about someone that you're not paying necessarily, but someone who's a peer, but just a little bit further down the road than yourself, who can walk alongside you and help provide guidance, direction, listen to you, to whatever it is that's going on in your personal life, and not necessarily provide a lot of advice, but at the very least being a sounding board. But certainly it could include advice from a personal level, relational level, advice on your program and your battle plan. So a mentor, and then having a group of men. And what I'm talking about, there's so many great Bible studies out there, and guys come to me and they talk about how wonderful their men's group is at church. And I'm sure that it is. It can be a really great experience. There's something different that happens when we engage in a group with men who we know all of them struggle or have struggled with unwanted sexual behavior. When we get to that place where we are able to be vulnerable, and we don't have to ask, do the guys in this circle struggle or not? That if that's the common denominator, I already know that they struggle. I'm going to be able to show up more as myself. Now, I know in the beginning, just like many other guys, I showed up with a lot more vulnerability, but we still needed to get used to the idea of being there and telling other guys, I have a problem. It's we're just less likely to be as deep and as vulnerable in a group where that's not the common denominator. So the Bible study at church is wonderful. I don't recommend stop the Bible study, but add a group. It's a closed group of men who struggle. Only men 18 and older who struggle or have struggled in the past with unwanted sexual behavior. So the idea is a lot of guys, they don't know where to get that. They might not really understand that there are groups out there. You can go online, do a web search for different groups. There are 12-step groups out there that can accommodate this. Men in the Battle is one such group where we offer a lot of different formats along that line, one of them being a guided track. So a trained mentor, a trained facilitator that can help guide the group. But having that group is really extremely important. Now, I know a lot of guys want to start out on their own with some curriculum, and sometimes that might be appropriate. But to have a solid battle plan for long-term freedom and success, I think that's really essential.
It is. And we were created for connection, and sexual addiction forms in the absence of authentic connection. So part of the repair is that authentic, regular, ongoing connection. Okay, tell me more about the mentoring piece. How does that relationship actually work? Like, what do you have guys do in your program in MIB when they're mentoring one another?
Yeah, it is. What we suggest is an additional one-on-one weekly meeting. And with Men in the Battle, 95% of it is online. So these are men scattered across North America, some overseas as well. We have a couple of local groups in central Indiana, in-person groups. So we're talking about a Zoom meeting on a free Zoom account for 40 minutes once a week. And basically going through our curriculum. So in Men in the Battle, we have a weekly lesson, and we're talking about going through that curriculum together, taking it a step further, taking it deeper, asking deeper questions, helping him really dig deep into that lesson and apply it specifically to his life. And then, so that's kind of the basis of the mentoring program. But other than that, yes, he can also provide some kind of accountability, and a lot of people are familiar with accountability groups, accountability partners, and that kind of thing. And yes, he can certainly be that as well.
Okay, and you talk about Peter, James, and John is a term, PJJ, right? And so when a guy is looking for his Peter, James, and John, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's something that I was actually praying about many years ago. And I was just saying, okay, God, one guy on the entire planet who I can call and talk to.
That's not enough.
One man.
What if you're in a crisis?
If I'm in a crisis,
yeah.
What if he's in a crisis?
Right.
And I'm in a crisis at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is actually happening.
It does happen. And you can surprisingly help each other, but it's better to have an inner circle of bros.
Yeah, so I was praying and I was just saying, God, that sounds ridiculous to just have one person, one accountability partner. And then having too many is also a problem because, we can tend to skim the surface of relationship and not go real deep.
Not be vulnerable. Yep.
So when I was praying, I heard Jesus say, well, I had 3 guys that I was really close to.
Peter, James, and John.
Peter, James, and John. So I started teaching that in Men in the Battle. 3. So the professional, for sure, we still have a professional coach or a counselor, either one-on-one meetings or through curriculum, like what we have in Men in the Battle, that teaching from a professional. And then the mentor is still there as well. But in addition to that, having 3 guys who ideally they're in that closed group together and they're walking the journey together. They're working through the same lessons together. In curriculum or whatever it might be. But having these 3 guys, so yeah, in MIB, I just started teaching Peter, James, and John. They affectionately started calling it PJJ. I actually heard one guy tell me about his PJJ group. I was like, wait a minute, what is that? What does that even mean? He told me, Peter, James, and John. Oh, okay, I got you. And in the Peter, James, and John group, we actually define one guy as Peter, which would be kind of the go-to guy, the one who sets up the phone calls that they need to make throughout the week. They're connecting with one another. So he initiates that too. So we even have one guy be the point person, the Peter of the PJJ group. And so these 3 guys are connecting throughout the week. So in the case of having a closed group of men meeting weekly, right, to work through the lesson. What about the other 6 days per week?
Oh, yeah, they need to be reaching out to each other rather than remain in isolation.
Exactly. So this journey is a daily basis. It takes daily effort. So having 3 guys and having multiple points of connection throughout the week, maybe all 3 of them together, meeting on a Zoom link, again, the free 40-minute Zoom meeting, whatever it might be. Phone calls are great. Texting is okay, but it's not super relational, and there's so many different things that's missed in a text conversation. But at the very, very minimum, yes, guys text one another. But yeah, phone calls and then a Zoom meeting is even better. But having those connections with a couple of other guys so that there isn't just one man on the entire planet, but I have several that I can reach out to. And if I'm in a crisis, my odds go way up. Well, with 3 guys, at least triples the idea that someone's going to be available. And it's pretty amazing the way this works out. I've had guys text me at, I had a guy, one of our facilitators actually, and we implement this amongst our leadership team as well, where we have the triad type groups and different things, and these kind of relationships on our facilitator team, that facilitator Men in the Battle groups. And a guy was on the West Coast and I'm on Eastern time. He's texting me at, I think, 11 p.m. his time. So
2 a.m. your time.
2 a.m. And I just happened to be up going to the bathroom, middle of the night, and I felt God prompted me, look at your phone. There's a text message. I'm like, really? It's one of those things in the middle of the night. I'm like, am I dreaming this or did I really hear that? But I look at my phone and there is a text message that just came through and I'm like, okay, well, that was definitely God, So it's amazing that God can just put these things together. Yeah, he needed to talk to someone, and he really needed it then and there. And so I was actually able to interact with him. He actually responded right away saying, "What are you doing up at 2:00 in the morning?" But and I said, "Well, God woke me up to talk to you, I guess." So
God loves you that much.
These kind of things happen amongst the PJJ groups. This is the kind of formula that, because you said it, we need relationship in order to heal. We need a relationship to recover, to grow. So it happens, the growth in the context of relationship, and God gets involved as well.
And speaking of relationship, I know I have a lot of wives that are going to listen to this that are going to be really curious about what does this battle plan have to say about marriage and what a guy could do to actively start to rebuild relationship with his wife. Obviously, trust rebuilding is going to take a long period of time, a long period of changed behavior. But if there is relational connection still in that marriage relationship, you talk about the 3 dailies and encourage men to implement that as part of their battle plan. What are the 3 dailies and why are they so effective?
Yep. So the 3 dailies were put together by Dr. Weiss in Colorado, and we always give credit to that source. So the 3 dailies, that's what we teach in MIB, is that it's just simple, easy to remember. It doesn't have to take a long time, and just having some kind of connection. Certainly, it's called the 3 dailies because daily is a good idea. But so the 3 dailies would be each take turns, husband and wife. So we each share a high and a low for the day. And the low, it's not a session where we're bringing up complaints or grievances about
Nor
each
is it
other.
a time to say, I acted out today. You have to, that's another part of the battle plan that you have to decide with your spouse. When do they want to know?
Exactly.
When does the betrayed partner want to know? How often does she want to know? How does she want to find out? That's another separate thing. So highs and lows, just general, here's my day.
Yeah.
My high and my low.
And that other point you brought up about, if a guy is experiencing some extended freedom and then he has a slip or relapse, those kind of things. And slip, we're not talking about slipping on a banana peel by accident or something like that, but a short lapse in progress is how we define a slip, very short lapse in progress. And so, confessing within 24 hours is usually what a wife would ask for. But this 3 dailies, this is not the time. So this is that would be a separate discussion for sure.
So this is basically relational connection.
Exactly. So I share a high and a low. You share a high and a low. We're not bringing up grievances or problems or challenges. It's not necessary. We're not trying to solve problems. We're just sharing, being vulnerable, sharing about our day, right? And it needs to, it can be a longer conversation, but certainly just short, to the point. Then I share something I appreciate about you. You share something you appreciate about me. And then we pray together. And prayer can be vulnerable, but it just very short. It doesn't have to be very lengthy. The whole thing could be 5 minutes. Could be 15 minutes.
And of course, if a wife doesn't want to do this because this all feels too intimate or vulnerable after all the hurt and pain she's been through, what should that husband's response be to that?
Absolutely. If she's not comfortable with it, then that's perfectly fine.
Yes.
I do recommend guys say, well, I totally understand. Would you mind if I just shared? If I shared a high and a low, and if I share something I appreciate about you, and ask you, how can I pray for you? Not necessarily together. So I still recommend guys just ask, okay, I understand that you don't want to share these 3 things. And for sure, she needs to work through and feel safe. And so that's really important. In the context of relationship, she might not be ready for this. So it really needs to be about her comfort level. And helping him understand, don't take it personally. but this is part of her healing process. And so have the courage enough to take the risk to ask and to talk to her and realize that the answer might be no. And it's not no forever. Maybe it's no, not yet. Right. But yeah, being sensitive to her needs and what is it that she really needs in the context of rebuilding the relationship.
So another important part of the battle plan is regular time in God's Word, just connection with God being so important. Should we move on to the next segment since looking at the time? The education and heart change. So the weekly path to freedom lessons that men can do when they're part of Men in the Battle. What are the steps that those path to freedom lessons take that help men move forward in their journey? So the different sections of the battle plan, so you just cover the relational part, God being one of the people in my battle plan, and the team, if you will, that I surround myself with, and then in the context of education and heart change, that's again talking about curriculum, talking about what I'm learning. We need help digging into the real root cause. Why is it that we behave this way in the first place? What is underneath this, right? So, my story, and I started looking at porn when I was 10 or 11 years old, and all of how that got started for so many years, decades. I mishandled my sexuality. What was underneath it all that time? And I got to tell you, a lot of guys think that marriage is going to solve the problem, or that it's just because my wife, if she just had sex more often. Those are not the reasons at all. Those are not. That's a smokescreen, but and it's a lie. The truth is that this started way before he met his wife, right? And so digging into the root cause. The Path of Freedom lessons help men do exactly that. Dig down into, and there's so many different places to look at, which certainly we can't cover in a podcast, but it is absolutely essential to start looking down deep into all of the things that are underneath the surface and starting to deal with them. And then these are the things that we can take to our professional, to our counselor, to our coach, to our mentor, and having those relationships established, then we can really get the help that we need on what to do with the information. When we find out what it is that's under the surface, well, then what do we do about it? Men in the Battle continues on with practical information steps, things to actually do about it. And we also do that at the Men in the Battle Intensive as well, and the in-person things we have in Central Indiana, like the Intensive, where you can come and work on some of those deeper issues. Okay, I know journaling is a big part, not only of the Men in the Battle program, but of your personal healing, right? Because you're implementing these things. Why is journaling so important? And why, we're not just talking about, today I ate turkey for dinner. I mean, what does journaling mean to you? And why is it an important part of heart change?
Yeah, we're not talking about the diary, of
daily.
Today I ate, or whatever. Journaling prompts are great. But what journaling, the reason that it's powerful is I have a lot of stuff rattling around inside of my head all the time. There's ideas, there's stress, anxiety, there's challenges, there's hurts and pains. I feel offended, I feel hurt, I feel broken, I feel alone, and
to be clear, this is not just what you felt 16 years ago.
I'm talking about this morning.
Real time human beings here.
All of these things that we have going on inside of us, if we just keep it inside of us, it festers, and it's not productive to just think about it, to sit there and try and think of solutions by myself. It doesn't work. It's not. It's helpful only to an extent, and sometimes those voices inside of my head and all of the brokenness inside of me can lead to a real distorted perspective that I don't even see the world clearly.
Yeah.
So when I journal and I write it out and I get it outside of myself, first of all, I'm giving a voice to those feelings and those things that's going on inside of my head. Sometimes things seem a lot more catastrophic than they really are. When I start writing it down and I see it, and I'm not talking, typing, is okay, but there is something that connects with deeper processes in the brain and the unconscious when I actually take a pen and I'm writing it on a piece of paper or, on a tablet, whatever it is, electronic tablet. But writing it out and seeing my handwriting and getting outside of myself, there's something that happens. Now, it's not completely magical and it's not 100% fixed, but it definitely moves me in the direction of understanding this is not as catastrophic as it felt. When I leave it inside of my head and it's just spinning around, it can lead to a perspective that this is more catastrophic, a distorted perspective, and then I start to take actions on that distorted perspective, and I'm feeling I'm moving my life in a direction that this problem is catastrophic when it's really not. It's not as bad as it seemed, maybe.
And all of us who have childhood trauma are carrying some level of distorted perspectives. We all are carrying some of the traumas and pains and griefs that we experienced as children into our adult life, and especially with immaturity being a core stronghold or difficulty for people with unwanted sexual behavior, because that sexual behavior is typically an attempt to regulate and feel better from distressing feelings that we never learned how to manage, right? So the journaling by itself, without seeking help from a trauma-informed professional, you may find yourself getting stuck. If you are listening to this and you're like, I've been on this journey for a long time and I'm still stuck with resentment, or I'm still struggling with acting out periodically, checking in with a trauma professional can really help you figure out what is keeping you from your next level breakthrough, because we do all carry distorted perspectives from the eyes of our inner children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So the Men in the Battle Intensive, you touched on it, but how does an experience like that fit into a battle plan? And why is it important to have some in-person, like actual active physical work? I mean, the intensive is not just like, oh, let's sit around kumbaya. It's like a physical experience for men to find their breakthrough. I'm not going to give it away. Don't worry. I'm not going to give away the secrets of the Men in the Battle Intensive, but whatever secrets you want to give away, go ahead.
Kumbaya would be a retreat,
This is no retreat. This is not a retreat.
But the intensive. So if I could just put it together in a couple of sentences, we're talking about a group of men that are intentionally moving forward into deeper healing, deeper understanding about themselves, and a deeper connection with others, with God, and becoming more like Christ. So. Yeah. There's something about leaving your comfort circle of home and wherever you live, even for men in central Indiana that come down and stay, at Christian camp, being in that environment of a group of men that are all moving in the same direction together. It's like an energy, it's a force, it's a powerful movement that we kind of get carried and moved into the deeper healing. So yeah, there's teaching involved, there's interactive work, there's breakout groups led by trained facilitators. And so the whole of it, and there is decent food, camp food, it's not terrible. And the accommodations are just fine for guys, bunks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that experience where we can come, it's immersive and it accelerates the growth in ways that you just can't get on a Zoom meeting or even in one-on-one therapy.
Yeah.
Because a group of guys together in the form of a brotherhood coming together, like-minded individuals. Yeah, we all grow off of one another's energy and momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so inspirational. I know it's like one of your favorite things to do all year. Okay, another part of the battle plan is self-care. And I talk about this a lot with my betrayed partners, but men dealing with unwanted sexual behavior and the trauma behind that need self-care too. Now, what's really tricky about this is early days recovery when the wife is just discovering and she's like falling apart, right? Self-care for you as the guy can go on the back burner. Maybe you have to press the pause button a little bit as you help your wife put her oxygen mask on. But in the ebb and flow of life and recovery, self-care for a man becomes really important. Now, there's a big difference between self-care and being selfish. So
Right.
What exactly do you mean by self-care for a man? And why is it so important long-term for a man in recovery?
Yeah. We can use a lot of different things to distract ourselves from the work that we need to do, from the deeper recesses of our heart that we need to process and look at. So, work, a lot of work, even work around the house, different things, busyness, it takes away from slowing down and actually growing. Growth takes time, and it takes a slower pace for so many of us, for most of us, like journaling, right? I mean, if we're moving too fast, we skip over things like that. So journaling would be self-care, doing the lessons in Men in the Battle or curriculum, meeting with a mentor. All of those things are self-care, all of the growth. But we're also talking about things that are restful. We're talking about Sabbath. So this can also be done in the context of relationships sometimes. We're not talking about like isolation, but just really understanding, what do I really need? And, listening to some of those places inside of ourselves, like, I go through seasons where I can tend to overwork a little bit, and I can feel parts of me inside saying, let's just take 10 minutes. And I like to build models, and so sit down at a desk and put something together, be creative, build something. Even if it's just 10 minutes, we're talking about just feeling that pause, feeling the rejecting that urge to just jump into my day and rush into my day, but just a few minutes. What you're talking about, self-care is not selfish, right? When it comes to playing golf, a lot of guys like to do that. And I tell guys, this is where your mentor is going to come in handy. Your Peter, James, and John. Like, talk to your mentor, talk to your counselor, talk to other people, talk to your wife. Playing golf every day is not self-care, right?
It could be an attempt to avoid or numb or distract. And it's really hard for some people to tell the difference between like what is good, nurturing self-care and reasonable, that it's mature and it takes into account the other people in my family and what they need.
Yeah.
And it's not me being entitled.
Right.
And what is me trying to numb and distract myself from my pain. Like shopping, online shopping, drinking, sometimes those types of things actually create more pain and problems.
Right, exactly. So processing it with your mentor and your wife and understanding, what is it that's appropriate? What's the correct timing for these kind of things?
Right.
Going for a walk, outside on your lunch break, even at work or whatever it is.
Putting your feet in the grass.
Yeah. Self-care can be different things for different people, But we're talking about just taking a break, even if it's momentary, just small amounts. Sometimes it might be taking half a day and going for a hike in the woods. Bike rides, could be even going on a solo overnight retreat. So all of these things, but in proper context. If you have 3 infants at home and your wife just discovered that you were having an affair, or like just you picture whatever it is that's happening, and there are cases where a lot of these things are not going to be appropriate. You're going to be changing diapers and helping create space for your wife to heal. Yeah. So it has to be, there has to be some balance.
Yeah. Okay. So for the guy who's asking the question, like what I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. How do I initiate a battle plan? Do you have a resource that you're going to make available to our listeners?
Yep. You can, jump on our email list. So there'll be a link in the show notes. So you can get on our email list, and that will send you, the opt-in and confirmation to be on the list and so on. And then I will email you a PDF that has a lot of these prompts in here and notes. So if you're driving, and you wanted to write this down or whatever it is, right, you can just jump in there and get a copy of it with some recommendations, some links on how to get some of these resources directly from our ministry. But understand that we really just want people to get help, whatever the case is, wherever they choose to. So, but it'll have some, a lot of the notes and things in here, so the framework of the battle plan that they can apply no matter where they get help from.
Friends, you're never too far gone to come back to God, to be restored, to be renewed, to have your perspective shift, to get your breakthrough for freedom from unwanted sexual behavior. We hope if you're listening to this and it's been helpful to you that you would take a moment to rate and review the Living Truth podcast. This helps other people find us. And Michael, thank you for sharing your heart and journey and the battle plan concepts that are so important and that have helped so many men find freedom from unwanted sexual behavior.
Yes, thank you.
And listeners, until the next episode, we are holding out hope for you.